Hello ladies and gents, this is another video brought to you by Outworld. I'll be giving you an update on my Nicos, or my Camponotus Nicobarensis. I'd like to say it's a good update, but I don't think it is. Now, about 5 months ago, I think it was, possibly a bit longer, I did actually predict a bit of a die-off going on with my Nicos. This is them destroying a fluffy mouse, which is like a little baby mouse, and they could absolutely strip it down to bones. Now, definitely not. To get a true grasp of how big my colony was, I would recommend looking at the playlist in the top right corner now and watch that before you watch this video. Then you'll realise the impact of where they're at now, to be honest. Now, this video was taken today and it's an overview. Now, if you notice, that outworld where I normally feed them is not too busy. This looks busy, but there's a lot of dead, and I'll go into that in a second. At the front of the tank there's tons of dead yet again. Give me a second, I'll go over that in a bit, but let's crack on. If you notice the tunnels, if you watched the playlist before, this was rammed packed full of ants. It's practically empty now, and this outworld had loads in it as well, but there's only a couple running around now. So yet again, it's not looking great, guys. It's not looking great. And then we check out the nests. Now, we'll have a better look at this in a second. There's plenty of space in there. If you look at the first nest, still plenty of space in there. But now if we take a look inside the nest, which will be, this is the video from, we're using my macro lens from the first nest now, or the old one on the left. Now, if you notice, there was some pupae there, which is great news because I've not had pupae develop for a long time. I mean, I'm talking months. So the brood is starting to push forward now, and this is the main chamber where they keep most of the young. And as you can see, there's plenty of larvae there, and there's quite a few fairly fresh eggs as well. One queen resides in this nest as before, but as you can see, there's so much space. I haven't got the original footage from my earlier videos because I'm doing it on phone space, blah blah blah. So you'll have to watch my playlist to have a look at how it used to be compared to now, and you can see there's been a massive drop off in density in the nests, and generally speaking the whole colony itself. And as you'll see now, we're going to move on to the second nest. Now, there is still some pupae in here, which is good news, but there's just not enough brood development either. And if you look here, I stayed here for a while because it was the first time I've seen this queen for a long time, and I generally thought she was dead. And at first I thought she was a super major because they are quite similar in size and quite big, but then clearly you can see she's got a massive abdomen, no, not that, thorax, is that the right word? Yeah, maybe. So I knew it was the queen. So that is a good point because I generally thought I'd lost one of the queens because I've not seen her for months. So happy days on that one. But as you can see again, as we go around, the footage is terrible. I apologise, guys. I do apologise. But you see as you go around that there is still some elites, but not nearly as enough as there used to be. There is still plenty of space in the nest. It is just super disappointing. Super disappointing. And to tell you the truth, I don't know what I'm doing. I'm not doing anything differently. They're just having a die-off, and I can't tell you why. Now, the best way to show you how dirty it is or how big the graves are is to watch me cleaning. Now, this one wasn't too bad, and to tell you the truth, most of the dead were to the top, and you can't really see it on this video. So, in fact, I'm going to stop showing it. Now, as you can see here, this is the main outworld, and those dark things are all dead ants. I don't know what to say about it. I've got a suspicions, in fact I'll just say, I think I had a death spiral. Now you might think, Hood, your nest is not big enough to have a death spiral. Now, those that you don't know what it is, it's basically when ants, their trail does a circular motion, and then the way that it works for ants is they follow a trail. And then if one ant leaves a circular trail and does a big circle, then another ant may follow it. Now, if that second ant follows it, it makes that initial circular scent stronger, and the stronger that it gets, the more ants that follow it, the stronger it gets. So essentially you suddenly start getting all the ants going into a full circle, and that's why it's called death spiral, because there's no way out of it for the ants because they're just following the scent. And then after a while they'll start dropping off and dying due to exhaustion. Now you might think, well, how's that relevant to you, Hood? It's relevant to me because what I noticed the other day, and I didn't think much to it, is that all the ants were going up one corner of the outworld, and as they're going up that corner of the outworld, they were dropping off and then going back up that corner of the outworld. And I just didn't think that it would be that bad of an issue because they go up the corners all the time. It's not the end of the world, as it were, but this time it was. and it was because I didn't realise it. They were following an ever increasing in strength scent, and they just carried on going and going and going and going and going and going and going until they died of exhaustion. And I think that's why I've got so many dead in this outworld that suddenly appeared overnight. Now I'm just going to speed this bit up because most of the stuff I'm picking up now is just dead cockroach. But what you'll notice in a minute when I move on to the next area is that there's a lot bigger pile of nests. Now I've moved the tank to have a look and you can just see it here, but I'll stop and move the angle, I think. Now I've moved the tank out of the way, and unfortunately I have to put up with the rocking of the camera, otherwise it cuts too much of the image out, to be honest. And I want to see that big pile in the bottom right corner and see how big it was and how bad it was. I don't know how many's there, but it's a lot. Now I've speeded it up because this video is 10 minutes long just watching me clean this out, and it ain't that interesting, to be honest. But I would strongly advise you get a hoover, because these little keyboard hoovers that I use here with a tube attached to it is just a godsend. This would have took me forever and a day to clean up if it wasn't for that. So I strongly recommend that one. But what you see, the issue I've got at the moment is that they're crawling all over the dead pile on the right. So I'll spread it out a little bit, like you can see I've just done. So I, better get an opportunity of collecting up the ants without them getting sucked up as well. Now there did some get sucked up, goes without saying, but not in the numbers that you would expect if I didn't move it out. So it's not a bad idea. Please excuse the humming in the background, that will be my missus on a sewing machine. But is my Connolly dying off fully to the point of extinction? I don't think so. It's still quite a healthy size, to be honest. Yes, I think I've lost about 50%. I believe at my max I was probably about 2,800, 3,000 workers, and I have dropped down to at least a third of that. I think maybe I've got 1,000 plus now. So it has had a significant die-off, but I don't think they're on the way out. I've still got both queens. I've still got, well, a healthy-ish pile of brood. What's going on though? I don't know. I have cleaned the first two outworlds, so I'm going to disconnect this one, just showing it in case you're interested. And now I'm going to clean this one out. But if you notice, there isn't that mad rush of escapees like I did last time I did this. When I look into it, there is still a lot of dead. Now, yes, granted, if you've seen the video on the playlist about a huge graveyard, it was from this outworld. And yes, they have dropped some more off, but there's still a significant amount of dead considering how many there is elsewhere. Because when they had that graveyard, there wasn't this many. Now, I've also noticed that they've been picking at that cotton wool again, and slowly but surely they're wearing it down. So you'll see me later on, in fact you won't see me do it later on because I filmed it, but I'm not putting in this video. I've been poking it back in and putting fresh cotton wool in the end, because they are pains. Now, yet again, the Hoover works its magic and cleans a lot of the dead up. Yet again, people, if you've got any Connolly of any size that start having graveyards and dead, or mulch down their food to the smallest size, these Hoovers, they're awesome. I wouldn't recommend using them per se on something like Fidolis because they swarm everywhere and you're just not easy to get out of this Hoover because it's so small. But something big like Camponotus or maybe a Formicarium? No, Formica would be ideal for this kind of Hoover. So if you do suck them any up, you don't need to worry about it. Oh, and I lied. You can see me poking that cotton wool in. There it goes. I did collect all the dead to see how big the pile was, and I was shocked about how big it was. It is quite the mound, to be honest, and when I flattened it all out you can see how many dead ants I had, and it was a lot. Now it's a little bit out of sequence, but I'm going to call this Ant Sandy because she's got grains of sand on her head. Now she was in the death spiral, if you want to call it that, dead pile, and she's on her way out. As you can see, she's sat on the end of my thumb. She's quite happy, well, not happy at all. She's quite docile, she's not moving. She's not very compos mentis, as it were. And one thing I noticed about her is she was covered in sand. Could have been from the Hoover, but I don't think so. I think it's more the fact because she's not been getting cleaned by her sisters. I think because she's dying, as you can see, she's twitching. She's on her way out. They've not fed her because you see her gaster's not full of food or anything like that. And they're not cleaning her, they're not feeding her. So I think she's a medial worker. I don't think she's a major, but she has got quite a big head, to be fair. And unfortunately, I don't think she's going to make it, to be honest.